was going to say episode, but it's not really an episode, to another video of the Road to React add-on series. Today's chapter is something that I almost skipped or wanted to skip really badly because it confused the heck out of me, to be honest. It's about performance in React. And as you can see, it's considered advanced, at least to the author. So let's talk about rendering and how to avoid rendering when there's no need to render something. It's that simple. That's really what it boils down to. And that's how it is most of the time. A lot of complex things really boils down to something very simple. So let's start with use effect and how we tell it not to run, not to run it on the first render, because it renders the first time, and every time there's a change. Yeah, so we don't, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. How to run use effect, not on the first render, but every re-render. Okay, I hope I got that right. So let's get to it. So for that, I'm actually going to use another tutorial to explain this, because I wasn't even aware that W3 Schools had an incredible, well, W3 Schools is just beyond amazing, but I didn't know that their React, I know they had some React stuff, but it's actually pretty damn good. So I cannot imagine a better tutorial information page than W3 Schools. So let's go to W3 Schools use effect, and you can probably hear Checo in the background. It's my new puppy, world's greatest puppy. I have very little doubt about that. He is just incredible, just an amazing companion. All right, so back to use effect. The use effect allows you to perform side effects in your components. So I'm not going to go over what use effect is, and I'm just going to focus on this part right here, which is don't run use effect on the first render. Like, how do we get that? How do we get there, right? Because it by default it runs first render in every update, right? So you can see if you just use effect, it says runs on every render, and that includes the first time the component renders. Okay, if you want to just run it on the first render and not on any consequent re-render, you just provide it with a second argument of an empty array. Checo, hey, I'm doing a video. You like keeping it down? He's just the cutest puppy ever. Okay, so all right, so but we don't want that. It's not that we want we only want to run it on the first render. We want to run it on what is it? We don't want to run it on the first render. We want to run it on every re-render. So sort of like the opposite of this, the opposite of providing an array. So okay, long story short, short story long, long story short, what Viroch did here is a sort of little trick here where he uses is mounted and uses useRef for that, sets it initially to false, and then checks if it's not mounted, then set is mounted to true. Otherwise, run whatever you want to run in use effect. So that way, it will avoid running the body of the use effect on the first render. It will skip it because this is what will run on the first time. Okay? All right, I hope I didn't confuse you. Again, in addition to this book and this video, add this W3 School page tutorial. It helped me tremendously. It made everything that he talked about, it made sense after looking at the tutorial. Hey, Checo, can you take it down a notch? Okay, so, all right, so let's move on to the next part, which is don't re-render if not needed. don't do unnecessary re-renders. So how do we get that to work, right? So what Viroch did is use something called memo. There's something in React called memo. And what you can do with memo is you can tell it, if you provide it with an argument, a second argument, I'm sorry, if you just use memo by itself, it will only re-render or run if it will only run if one of these items in the argument list has changed. Okay, so in this case, on remove item and list. Okay, so if we go back to W3 schools and go to React memo section, you will see that it says using memo will cause React to skip rendering a component if its props have not changed. Okay, so I'm sorry, yeah, so in this case it's a component that we don't want to, I misspoke. Sorry, this is a tough subject to be honest for me, and I'm trying to make sense of it as I'm talking about it and sort of teaching it myself, or trying to teach it myself. So so we're trying to avoid rendering this component, because this is a component. This is not the use effect body, and unless one of these, we don't want to render it unless one of these has changed, right? Okay, so moving on. So here's an example the W3 schools offer, which is that we don't want to re-render to-dos unless to-dos have changed. And the way they accomplish it is, this is the original to-dos component right here. And if you go further down, you'll see the solution to prevent it from re-rendering if to-dos haven't changed. If these to-dos right here, this argument hasn't changed, then don't re-render it. And they use memo. So I know this is slightly different than here. Here we use react.memo, but the same thing essentially. This is just importing it differently and using it differently. We're importing it here and we're using it here, versus we're going straight to we use the library and straight to memo through the library in this way. Okay, I hope that makes a little bit of sense. All right, moving on to the next part, which is that okay, I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Let me see what it says here. The list path to this list component is the same, but the on remove item callback handler isn't. If the app component re-renders, always creates a new version of this callback. I know they using another thing that's interesting. They're using use callback here, and they're providing it with the empty array again. See right there. So if we go over to let's see, use callback hook. This hook returns a memoized callback function. Think of memoization as caching a value so that it does not need to be recalculated. This allows us to isolate resource-intensive functions so that they will not automatically run on every render. Use callback hook only runs when the use callback hook only runs when one of the dependencies update. Okay, cool. Use callback and use memo hooks are similar. Use memory returns a memoized value and use callback returns a memoized function. Okay, so I guess think about it in the same way as use memo, except use callback is a function and use memo doesn't use a function. Yeah, and one reason to use callback is to prevent a component from re-rendering unless its props have changed. So let me see what they did here. They used memo on to-dos, which we already seen. But where's the use callback part? I don't see that anywhere. Do you guys see it? Okay, maybe that's not the solution. Maybe further down. Oh yeah, the solution is down here. Why does it work? We're using memos. Okay, try running this and click it. So this is the original code before they use callback. You will notice that to-dos components re-renders even when the to-dos do not change. Why does this not work? We're using memos, so the to-do should not re-render since neither the to-dos state nor the add to-do function are changing when count is incremented. It's because something called referential equality. Every time a component re-renders, its functions get recreated. Yeah, so okay, this is my understanding too. I think I get the hang of this now. The reason it still gets re-rendered is because add to do is changing. To-dos is not changing, but the function gets recreated every time, so it changes. So this doesn't work, this using memo. So now what we have to do, and I can't believe I'm getting this right, I'm actually getting excited about this. We make add to do use callback, and then we say only if to-dos change, consider this changed. Oh, that's awesome. I can't believe I got that. All right, cool. Moving on. Don't rerun expensive computations. Let me see where they're going with that. And by the way, also pull up the code right here. I'll probably share this in the description if I don't forget. But pull up this code and follow along. This is what Viro struggled there with the name. This is where he's at by this chapter. So you sort of need that to make sense. So between these three, everything should make sense in this video. Hopefully my video adds value. No, Checo, stay. Okay, so let's see what he's talking about in this last section. For every transfer, run again. I think this is just a summary, this last part. Don't, sometimes. Sorry, I'm just reading. This might be a part of the video you cannot really use. To be honest, I'm not sure if I'm finding anything new here. I see the use memo for get some comments. So only if stories change, consider some comments changed. That's the way I look at it. Okay, cool. Which if you come over here, there it is, get some comments. And in this case, he didn't use. Wait, that's interesting. He didn't use, I don't see the use memo on get some comments. This is get some comments. Is that what it is? No, this is some comments. So get some comments. I wonder where this code is in the code that he confirm your source code for the last. Oh, this is not the. Is it? Oh, maybe I clicked on the wrong link. Maybe this is. No, that's not it. Oh, here is just showing what has changed. But again, I don't see the... Oh, there's the get some comments right there. Get some comments. Oh, we already have that. Okay. Not sure what to make of that. I guess maybe I missed something. I should have read that a little bit more in depth, but he used use memo on some comments, but then I don't see it in the code. All right, so homework. See if you can figure it out. Imagine world's laziest teacher. All right, cool. Thank you for tuning in. Stand by for the next video. All right, take care.